Let's talk about something we all deal with every single day, our food. We trust it, right? We assume it's safe. But is it always what it claims to be? Today, we're going to break down the legal side of food adulteration so you can get a better sense of what might be hiding behind the label. Seriously, just think about it for a second. The next time you're at the grocery store and you pick something up, how do you know it's exactly what the label says? It sounds simple, but as we're about to find out, this whole thing is way more complex than you might think. All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First up, what even is adulteration? Then we'll get into the sneaky stuff, altering and concealing. From there, we'll look at the really serious side, unsafe and unhygienic food. And we'll wrap up by looking at the economic angle. Okay, first things first. To really get a handle on this whole topic, we've got to start with the basics. What does the law actually say food adulteration is? So the main culprit in this story is something called an adulterant. The legal definition is actually super simple, but it's also really powerful. It's basically any material that is used or even just could be used to adulterate food. Yeah, you can think of it as the weapon of choice for messing with our food. Okay, so what does one of these adulterants actually do? Well, according to the food safety laws, it basically turns a food product into a problem in one of four ways. It can make it straight up unsafe or just substandard. It can cause it to be misbranded, or it can mean the food contains, well, stuff that just shouldn't be in there. But why? Why would anyone do this? Well, it pretty much always comes down to two things: money or hiding something. It's either about pure economic gain, making a bigger profit by cutting corners, or it's about concealing a defect, trying to hide that a product is damaged or just low quality. At the end of the day, it's all about profit and deception. All right, let's dive into the first category of this stuff, the really subtle, deceptive side of adulteration. We're talking about the clever tricks that are designed to fool our senses and, of course, our wallets.
Okay, this is pretty interesting. There are basically two main ways this happens. First, you've got substitution. That's when they add something cheaper or inferior to kind of dilute the real product and stretch their profits. Then, on the other hand, you have abstraction. And this is basically just theft. It's when they take out a valuable part of the food, like skimming the cream off the top of milk. Either way, the consumer gets cheated.
And a perfect example of this is the olive oil industry. It's a classic. You might be paying top dollar for that extra virgin olive oil, but what if it's been cut with cheaper, low-grade Lamponte oils? And get this, Lamponte literally means lamp oil because historically that's what it was used for. It wasn't even fit to eat. So you end up paying a premium price for a product that's been secretly watered down. And then we have the art of concealment. This is just pure trickery. It's about using things like artificial colors to make produce look fresher than it is, or adding some flavor to cover up a bad taste. The whole point is to make you think you're buying something of a much higher quality than you actually are. And this is a really important point. This kind of concealment doesn't just happen on its own. It's almost always paired with misbranding, which means they're making false claims right there on the label. So the lie you see on the plate is backed up by the lie you read on the package. Okay, so we've talked about the tricks and the economic scams, but now we need to get into something much more serious. This is when food adulteration stops being just a ripoff and becomes a direct threat to your health. Yeah, we're not just talking about getting cheated anymore. This is when the food itself crosses a line and becomes actively harmful, something that can make you sick or even cause injury. And if you look at the legal definition of unsafe food, you'll see it's incredibly broad, and for a really good reason. It can mean the food has poisonous ingredients, or that it's just filthy, rotten, or decomposed. It can mean it was made in unhygienic conditions, or that it has insects in it, or was even stored in a container made of something toxic. The list just goes on because the potential dangers are, well, huge. And here's something you really need to get. The danger doesn't always come from some illegal banned substance. Nope. Even a totally legal, approved additive, think of a preservative, can make food unsafe if it's used in amounts higher than the legal limit. It really is a case of the dose makes the poison. Okay, for our last section, let's look at a type of fraud that might not necessarily make you sick, but is absolutely designed to hit you right in the wallet. Up until now, we've mostly been talking about the quality of the food, what's in it. But sometimes the scam isn't about the quality at all. It's about the quantity. A really great example of this comes from the seafood industry. Check this out. Some processors use certain food-grade phosphates to make fish and shellfish absorb a ton of extra water. So what's the result? You end up paying the price of seafood for water. The net weight on the label might say one thing, but a big chunk of what you're actually paying for is just moisture. That's economic fraud, plain and simple.
So, when you boil it all down, here's the takeaway. Every label on every product you buy tells a story, but now you know it's not always the whole story. Now that you understand the different ways food can be messed with, from substitution and concealment all the way to dangerous contamination, you're so much better equipped to, read between the lines. It changes the question from just what am I eating to what am I really eating?